Hello everybody and welcome back for another round of World Talks here on TVP World. My name is Don Arleth. A tragedy at a train station in Serbia now looks to be a major threat to the government. Protesters want accountability and accuse the government of cronyism and corruption, which led to the collapse of the newly renovated canopy in Novi Sad back in November, killing 15. The first victim of the student-led accountability protest was the country's prime minister, who stepped down last Tuesday, a move that Miloš Vučević claims was done to diffuse tensions. Now the question remains, how far-reaching will these protests be? And do they pose a major threat to the current government? Joining us now to discuss is Michał Matlak, a policy advisor at the European Parliament. Hello and thanks for joining us on World Talks.
Good evening, hello.
So I guess to start off, what has the government done so far to try and meet the protesters' demands in this case of which they are accused of corruption and cronyism and incompetence?
In the rhetorical sense, they tried to accommodate the demands as much as possible. They said that they will do everything the students want, because we have to say that it's led a protest. There was no clear picture of the protesters. They want basically a functioning state, I'd say. And this is the wish that the current government cannot meet. I guess that in practice, what the students and the protesters want is the kind of dismissal of the president. The president obviously doesn't want to do that. That's why he decided that his prime minister will go. There are smaller changes regarding the investigation into the Novi Sad case and in general decisions regarding this kind of building projects. But I guess that if we look at the substance, there is no possibility for the current president to meet the demands of the protesters, because they want, as I say, a full-fledged, functioning state, and they will not get it as long as stays in power.
So what is the opposition's role in these protests? Are their goals the same as the students who are protesting?
In practice, yes. They would also want to see President Vučić out of office, but these protests are not political. So the political leaders are not present, or they are not leaders of these protests. They are organized by mostly, and by some NGOs. These protests are not led by opposition parties. Opposition-led protests in November last year, if I'm not mistaken. But they were kind of connected to the election fraud. But this time, probably that's why also the scale is so impressive. Here politicians don't have that much to say. If I may point out to an interesting fact, we can also see that contrary to, for example, Georgia, the EU play a huge role here. There are no EU flags, for example, in this seen these manifestations. So we can see that the EU is not seen as a natural ally of the protesters.
Yeah, that's interesting observation that you make. I would say in Georgia, though, the government uses that European flag as more of a false flag than something they truly believe in. But actually, you brought up an interesting point, and that is the protests in Georgia, in Serbia. There are some parallels that we can draw. I think also one of them is the fact that the students, well, they want something, but they don't know the means to achieve them. Do you think that that's a problem in Serbia with these current protests, is they don't know exactly what the end goal is?
May come back to this EU flags. What I meant about Georgia is that the protesters are holding the flags and not the government. Obviously, the government is not really doing that, and here the protesters don't do that. So that's this difference. When it comes to the political goals, I'd say that it will be a huge problem. I think that the protesters have this kind of political, kind of the lack of clear political vision. But later, now it's something that probably fuels the protests as well and helps them survive, because people who participate in it don't think it's politically manipulated. That's why I think that for now the kind of the protesters, but at some point obviously it will have to be translated into a political action, and whether it's the case or not, it's difficult to say. In Georgia, political position is, I'd say, more organized. I have has for sure more contacts with the West. They are supported by the West actively. In Serbia, it's much more complicated, probably also because of the Serbian past. The link with the EU, for example, Western organizations and NGOs are much weaker, I'd say. So it will be a challenge for sure for the protesters to translate it into a political action.
Certainly. Now, how about the role of social media here? If we look at state-run TV, the amount of censorship that you see from the mainstream media in Serbia, how is social media playing a special role here in these protests?
Well, it definitely is, because the level of censorship in Serbia is very high. The Australian benchmarks are met in Serbia at this level, but this is one of the benchmarks that is certainly met, and it's obviously a huge problem for any kind of opposition of democratic message. That's why social play a huge role. It's a basis for voters. These are most young, use basically only social media. They communicate only this way. They also perform at that, but also with the outside world. This, as most of the big social movements in other countries are so to say, are using social media very.
And now, back to the original claim of corruption, cronyism, incompetence. Is the government in Belgrade trying to remedy this perception that the public has of these government officials? Are they doing something to try and remedy this situation?
Very much so. First, they are trying to show that what was seen in Novi Sad never happen again, by changing the regulations, by promising kind of a new ways of doing things in Serbia, but it is it. And I'd say that we know this kind of protest cannot be caused by an accident, a tragic accident. It's a very deep demonstration of people's despair, I'd say, and the belief that what's going on in Serbia is very bad. The state is not functioning. So I'd say, as I said in the beginning, that I don't think that the government can really meet the expectations, but it will certainly try, and it will try to do so using its kind of geopolitical leverage, because Serbia is now seen as an important actor. It cooperates with China. It's building a fast train between Belgrade and West, trying to kind of flirt a little bit with Russia, although months I'd say that much less than that. And it will also try to show that it's moving forward with European, because the accessions formally are advanced, I'd say. So this is what the government will try to do. I will be very skeptical. Someone asked me if Chinese will buy it.
All right, well, these protests have been going on for almost 3 months now, and they will continue, so we'll see where they take us. Michał Matlak, Policy Advisor for the European Parliament, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World. Goodbye.